Welcome to Paranormal Palace Radio, where truth equals reality, and truth is often stranger than fiction.
Hello everybody, welcome to Paranormal Palace Radio. This is your host, Royce the Redneck Radio Man, and joining me today is going to be Tommy Hawksblood. And if you want to learn a little bit more about him, you can go to www.howtoseegod.org, and he's got his information right there on the page and links on the page and everything you need to know, and I'm pretty sure he's going to add to it as time goes on. This man's got a few books out, and I got links to them underneath his description, as well as the links that I think he's got on his website. So you ought to be able to find it easy to get that. Now, tomorrow I'll be moving this, what's on the front page to the archives to make room for the Saturday's guest, which is right underneath him. And, so on like I usually do. But we will be archiving this here at this site, as well as YouTube, Media Cafe, and Dailymotion. And, I think those are the ones. I had to stop and think about that for a minute. For you guys that are not listening here at the site, I would love to have you come over here. The membership is free. You can get in the chat room with a free membership. The URL is www.paranormalpalace.com. I've got some really friendly people over here. They could sure use somebody else to chat with besides me and what we have coming in there now. I mean, the more the merrier, you know what they say. And also, while you're here, you could also sign up for our newsletter, and you'll always know what the future shows are going to be, because although I usually have my shows at Tuesdays and Saturdays, there are times like tonight when I do extra shows according to my guests' needs, and sometimes even according to my needs if I have something going on. So, folks, feel free to come over, join, sign up for the newsletter, post to our forums, use the forums to tell me about guests you want to tell me about, recommend yourself or a friend of yours for a show, or, whatever the case may be. Tommy, I want to thank you for joining me tonight. How are you doing?
Well, it's a pleasure to be back. It's a real pleasure. It was so much fun the last time. I know we run out of time so fast when we get into talking. So I have a lot to talk about, and I'll leave it open to how many people want to ask questions and get involved with it. I want to try to take it a little bit further where I went last time. I'm not sure anybody that's here now didn't listen the last time. I want to try to get back to that too.
Which they can also catch the last one in the archive along with this one and get them back to back, and that might help a little bit. Before you get involved too far, though, would you like to go ahead and tell us about the conference you were telling me about so we don't forget it later on and run out of time?
All right, we're setting up a few people. We're setting up a really big UFO symposium, and we're going to try to make it different than most of the UFO seminars that are out there. We want to have it so that when people come, they actually get involved with a lot of different things, and they learn something, and they go home with something that they can use and benefit in their life as far as spiritual exercises and an awareness of how to get active and be active in the physical world. So it's going to be called, all right, we just came up with the name, Stargate Into the Cosmos. It's going to be in Arizona. It's the end of October, the 29th, through November 4th. It's about a half hour from Phoenix Airport. It's the Radisson, it's the casino hotel. It's really pretty. So, and we got really good rates for people that want to stay there the whole time. There's going to be workshops, round tables, and we're trying to get everybody involved. Maybe the first 2 days we're going to have healing energy work, a place for people that have been abducted to work, get used to dealing with it and learning what they actually experienced during it. So we have a lot of different ideas going on with it, so it's going to be fun. I'm just saying, if anybody's interested, they can email me at hawksblood1@aol.com, or just go into my site. I have numbers and more email addresses there. But if you're really interested in learning and seeing what's really happening, I'm having all the great speakers. I'm trying to keep the topics pretty much together, but what's really going on inside the government, what's really going on in the UFO world, and how it's going to affect everybody, really, not just the idea of, oh, well, this or that, and, oh, I saw a UFO, but what's really going on in the inside. So, yeah, if anybody's interested, please email me. It's going to be a fun time.
Do you have a website up with more information on it about for the convention itself or the symposium?
That's going to be going up probably this week. So that's why I'm saying get in touch with me for now. Once we get the site up, it'll be directed out there if you just type UFO conference. But as of right now, I just want anybody that's even interested in it, give me a call, email me, and we'll follow through on that because it's going to be a fun time.
Sure, and I'd love to have a link to that symposium site when you get it up, and I'm pretty sure you'll be putting that on your How to See God site too, won't you?
Yeah, but I think it's going to be more important. Like, I want to get it all over the internet because we want people to come and we want people to have a good time. But it's like getting it out there, the main thing.
Well, yeah, and I was going to offer to talk to some of your speakers and let them share with my listeners what they would be doing as their share in the symposium. If you was interested, that is, and they were interested.
Oh, no, I'm sure they all are. But it's all the big names. I mean, the whole Montauk Project people, time travel people, one of the top psychics in the United States, and couple people that worked on the UFO government stuff and things like that. So it's going to contain a lot of all the great speakers that are out there that I feel are really great. I mean, there's a lot of speakers that like to talk and tell stories, but I'm trying to go by people that I know that actually had experiences and worked with certain things with it.
Right. Which it's always really good to have as first-hand testimony and people that can share their actual experience. The only thing better than that is to have an experience yourself.
And that's what I stress more than anything else. I said, if you want to know the truth, you have to experience it.
Yeah, and there are a lot of things in life and that you can only be told so much about it. You can only be educated so much. You can only read so much. Some things in life, the bottom line dollar, like we were just saying, is you have to actually have an experience to, complete the task. And Christianity is no different from that. Now, I state that even though I'm not a Christian and I'm not fond of Christianity, but that is one of the things that, amongst other like Buddhism and Gnosticism and what have you, that share the same principle. Anything to deal with spirituality or religion, you would have to have an actual experience, in other words, even a UFO.
Well, for me, I had experience in everything that I talk about, so I'm kind of a person that's a realist. I'm not telling stories, but what other people say, I based it on what I experienced and the people that I have actually worked face to face with. I mean, I've been working with abductees. I've worked with people that have these incredible experiences, never mind all the experiences I had in my lifetime, which are many. And I was given a lot of gifts that way. Some weren't really that gifted because one of them, coming face to face to a Sasquatch, wasn't like the most friendliest experience I ever had. But even coming close to an alien wasn't a friendly experience. But as far as seeing UFOs really close, I mean, like 100 yards, 100 feet, and being next to them and stuff like that was an experience. And even the creatures and weird stuff that we witnessed and stuff up at Wanacue, New Jersey. There's a lot of good things and some bad things, but I got to meet so many cool people. And I traveled all over the United States, dancing native powwow dances and stuff, but I got to hang out with a lot of the elders and the chiefs and listen to the stories of the star people and things like that. So yeah, I pieced a lot of some things of that kind of information together for myself, which I don't kind of promote, but I did study with a medicine woman for 24 years who taught how to survive the new age, what's happening. And I'll get into that whole aspect a little bit later. But as far as the people that I've been around, my closest friends, I did regression with them, past life regression, as far as abduction experiences. And what I learned, and I'll get into this really heavy a little bit in a little while, when a person gets abducted, and I know people say there's good abduction and bad abduction, and I said, well, then you're using the wrong word, because if you're abducted, it means you're taken without your will. And the reply, most people will say, well, I had to choose that at some other level. Well, I mean, that's like, for me, that's a cop-out, because if you're a spiritual being, and you choose to come into this lower world and take a body, and then you choose to get beat up and abused and everything else, I mean, yeah, that's downplaying what you are spiritually. So to be totally aware that you're being abducted and you choose it, I don't believe that at all. And when I work with people, no, it's not like that. And you see how horrible it gets when they're on the ships. Most of the people do not remember it, aren't aware of any of the real experiences until you go into deep hypnosis and bring them deeper into it without them like breaking the wall down. That's the program. But that's just one part of it. For me, as of what's the changing happening right now, the most important thing is what people use is the word spiritual. And then the other word that they use is ascension.
Right.
I mean, spiritual is a very important word if you truly try to understand what it means to you. And it means something different to every person on the planet. But as far as religions, we have New Age religion, we have the Christian religion, we have Muslims, and we have, I can go into all the names of religions, but there's only two very populated religions. And that's the Christians and the Muslims. So when people put down religion, they're putting down a big percentage of the world. The most populated religion on the planet right now is the Christian religion, and it's over 1 billion people. And the Muslims are probably catching up and being very close to that now. So the New Age world, which is coming in, is not even a quarter as big as that because we still have 100 other religions. Then we have the New Age group of people coming in. But here's the problem. Most people put down religion, and it's usually not a religion that causes a problem. It's the way people translate that. And I think I talked a little bit about that the last time, but when a person's in a religion, if your paper that you're reading says, thou shalt not do this or do this and do that, and you do everything you want, you're not following that religion. And then when people see that, they blame the religion for that, not the people that are doing the things that aren't supposed to be part of that religion. And what I go into is we'll get into that a little bit as far as how the Ten Commandments were supposed to change the world. And they didn't. But it wasn't because they weren't written right. It was because the people translating them, trying to abide or use them, could not follow them, including Moses. So yeah, history is pretty bizarre as far as what's written down. And I want to get into that too, how the wording in the Bible is so incredibly different than the way people want to accept it or understand it.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole aspect of Adam and Eve, and if you read those wordings, I'll get into that in a little bit, but the wording is so bizarre, and it doesn't relate to what people want it to be. So, taking that into consideration, all these religions and stuff, where spiritualism fit in. And for me, spiritualism is only one thing. It's the connection to God itself. And then obviously you have to figure out and work with and learn what that really means to you. Because as you move into this world and you take on a physical body, you live a life, sure. But what's the meaning behind it? If you listen to everybody else, you're not going to get very much of a meaning. Because what I see, even with all the New Age people and all these people talking about prophecy and raising to a higher vibration, what is it going to leave them? What do they truly want to be when this happens? A farmer? I mean, you got a few choices. You can be a farmer. You could be a person making a spaceship. Or you could be sitting here doing nothing. So yeah, that's your choices. So I mean, we've been farmers since we were brought here. And now that we're getting involved with building ships and trying to get into space, I mean, that's the ultimate future for most of the people's ideas and dreams of what we're going to become in the near future. But is that what you want to be forever, a farmer? And then we take that into death. When people die, what do they want? They think they're just going to go to heaven and sit with their families. We'll get into that too. So I just want to put some of those things out there because as we get into each one of them, I'll get into it in great detail. Okay.
Real quick, like, if you don't mind me doing this, Tommy, Anthony Sanchez is a very good friend of mine, and I've got his poster up on my site for his upcoming conference here in June that I keep meaning to mention it, and I keep forgetting it. Even on the nights when or the shows when I have his people telling me, I mention it once or twice at least, but I'd kind of like to mention it a few other times to make sure people don't forget that it's, I've been calling it the Sacramento UFO Conference, but I've been told it was really the 2012 UFO Paranormal Summit. And that's going to be this month, the 16th and 17th, for those of you interested. Scroll down below Tommy and below Michelle Maney. and you'll see the big poster down there. You can click on it for more information after the show or whatever. But I was just thinking about that, and I hope you didn't mind me mentioning that for him. I mean, I'll be doing the same thing for you with yours.
No problem. It's your show. You have to do whatever you want.
Well, I like to try to be considerate of everybody as much as possible, because I frankly think the world would be a better place if more people did. So, at any rate, do you remember exactly where it was we left off at during the last show?
Well, I tried to put it all out there, and I didn't get into too much detail about a lot of the things because I was trying to put it all out there. But where I want to start again is good and bad. I mean...
Sounds like a good place to me.
It's like everybody's concept of what's good and what's bad, how we live life, and becoming spiritual. I mean, that, to me, that is the most important thing, but the reality of it is different for me than 90% of the people or 95% of the people out there that say they're becoming that. All right, let's start with, okay, different races have different ideas of what's good and bad. So when the United States says, well, this is good, and then Russia says this is good, and China says this is good, or Japan says that's bad, you have a large percentage of people that are in disagreement. Now, with the idea that this ascension is going to flow over the world and make everybody a new spiritual being and raise their vibration, my whole concept to this is, what is that? What is a spiritual higher vibration in the physical world? I can explain it to you when we leave the physical body, which I will. But in a physical body, where you have a heart, a liver, a kidney, blood flowing through your body, a brain that controls almost everything that you do, that's very easy programmed, the concept of spiritual, how far back in time, we can go back from the Anunnaki, Sumerian, and I would go back to Atlantis. Now, the truth of that, there are very few people on this planet that can say a single word about that. All right, and why I say that? Because two people alone created the definition Atlantis. All right, and Edgar Cayce was the person that carried it into the New Age, into this realm, and he took what Socrates said a long time ago. So here's two people saying something which became a reality and accepted. But if you go further back than that, and let's go back to what was going on in Atlantis, if it was really there, which it was. I wouldn't say it was called Atlantis, but the world that it was when it first started on this planet. There were different races living here. All right. Now, here's where the concept that I'm trying to put out, especially for tonight, the idea that everybody's saying, well, these races were playing with our DNA. All right. The definition of DNA only came into reality maybe, 50 years ago, roughly, and it became more of an idea and a realistic thing in the next 25 years. But DNA strands, the human race are only working with about 12 of them, and if you look at the chart of them, there's many of them. So they're only understanding what they're calling DNA. So let's go back to the first human being wherever it came from. Look human. Okay, and if it was brought to the planet, how in reality, playing with DNA, how much did it change? We all look the same from the beginning of the first human being that was put on this planet. So when they say they're changing our DNA, and then you talk about being spiritual, the people that lived in Atlantis, because I became aware of that when I was there in a lifetime, were psychic. They didn't talk much. They didn't use words much. So, and they were able to move things and all those kind of things. So what happened? They played with our DNA and took it away. They didn't add DNA. They didn't change the DNA. And I wouldn't even say that it was the alien races that did change it, because God blocked it. We were abusing all the powers we had, and it was taken away. Not like the aliens says, oh, we can't let them be spiritual. No, they're playing with our mind. And the programming is, which I call, what they call the DNA changing, is just programming the mind to think or to believe certain things.
Sort of like doctrinal teaching over millennia until it become accepted fact.
Exactly. But as far as the reason behind soul, and that's what we first said, you need to experience that. Without that experience, you'll have no understanding of the true reality of the soul, and then how can it unfold to something that it already is? So you're talking about shifting awareness, and to me, that's not changing DNA. It's only changing the way spirit actually is able to make the mind move and think. So here's something that I want to get into first. Okay, we have good and bad aliens. That's what everybody says. Well, that's like saying we have good and bad ants. We have good and bad bears. We have good and bad lions. They live the way they have to live. And so does the human race. They got to eat, sleep, wash, and work. So, yeah, they're programmed. They have a set situation. It's not like, well, yeah, you can take in some beat people up and things and whatever, obscure sex and weird kind of situations. But that's still very limiting. It's not like a human becomes a dinosaur or chases people around. I mean, it's not like it's that abstract. So when we say bad and good races, no race like the reptilian race. Good and bad. Good and bad what? They live a certain way. They eat certain things. To assume that, well, they're going to adapt to our diet or they're going to be friendly like we are. I mean, and that's one race. Okay, even the races that do look like us, why do you think they're not here? I mean, they're all over the place. Well, why aren't they even coming out to the president and say, hey, look, I'm a Andromedan, I'm a Nordic or whatever you want to call them, and say, here I am. Because they don't want to mingle with us, not at certain levels, and they got to keep control over us. Now, let's get a little bit, here's something that I realized recently, and okay, I can go into all the names. There's probably 100 names that I can mention right now, but I'm just going to keep it to the 8 that I already mentioned. Okay, the Draconians, the Pleiades, from Pleiades, the Syrians. Okay, we have the Sasquatch beings, which are here. Okay, here's something that very few people know or heard of. Is called the mantis. And they look very much like a praying mantis, but they're 8-9 feet tall. And they control the reptilian race and the Greys and the Nordics. So, which one of them are good? And here's what I tried to explain to somebody just recently. If they're good and bad, and you're in control of a planet, and you're going to let somebody take a ship off your planet, who do you put on that ship? If you're going to spend all this money or create a ship and put people on it, you're going to take all the bad people and stick them on it? Yeah, if you want to just get rid of them. But if you want them to do time travel and explore and things, you're going to put the bad people on it. So what I'm saying is, we don't just have bad people coming to this planet, and we don't have good people coming to this planet. We have people that are a specific kind of a person. I mean, the reptilian race, they think the same. The Greys, they think the same, just like an ant or a bee. I mean, you can go into the Andromedan and Syrians, and people have experiences with them. But here's where it gets a lot worse. I want to keep two things together. First of all, I want to just stick with the mantis for a second. Does everybody remember, I don't know how old everybody is, out of all creatures on the planet, bugs and insects and things, it was against the law to kill a praying mantis. In the United States, I'm talking about, at least.
I don't remember that.
Well, when I was young, there was a fine. It was a $25 fine if you killed a praying mantis. Whoever created the idea, why was it ever created? And it would be funny that just one bug was protected. Out of all the bugs out there, this one bug, which there weren't many. I mean, sure, we're trying to save them, but they were in the city. I mean, they were on cars, they were climbing up your window, and it was a big thing for a while. But it was just curious, like, why would you put a protection on a creature like that? But they do look exactly like a reptile. They do look like a mantis. So all I'm saying is it was a protection that the mantis people put in the intuitive of a person, not to kill them. Because it's like your little pet, your little family. I mean, they don't think exactly the same, but they are deadly killers and they eat everything, which reptilians do. So, I mean, we can get into that, but it was just something that I thought of over the past week, how when I was little, I thought of that because I did have an experience with mantis. And I know a few people that I had, and I had to work with them. Here's the problem. Again, when anybody gets abducted, it's never a good experience. All right. Like I said, if somebody knocks on your door, if there's a reptilian standing outside, you go, hey, excuse me, would you want to go on a ride on my ship? I'll take you somewhere. That's a different kind of experience. But if you're sitting in your bed and all of a sudden you're sitting on a ship with them playing with you, doing operations on you or whatever, that's not a friendly experience, no matter how nice it sounds or whatever from somebody outside. But then again, and this is a fact, when the government allowed certain races to play with the human race, they had to make sure that the programming that they put inside those persons kind of stopped them from remembering everything. And it did 99% of the people, because there's a lot more people that have been abducted that have no clue, and the ones that do just have an awareness of missing time, and then some have an awareness of being on a ship. And sure, it's breaking out a little more that people remember some of the experiences, the bad part, because it can be programmed in that you had a good experience, which they do. And I worked with many people that thought it was a great experience. I met one of the most, a famous person out of Long Island that wrote one of the first books on UFOs. She was killed by the government. The government threatened them. I mean, they had the whole thing happen, and the blue light coming through the window, her raising out of the bed, and there was 7 people there. I was with one of the people, and the whole thing. But as she wrote the book, it became like the son that wrote it wrote the angel I came to know, and for 20 years he thought he was working with angels until somebody did a regression with him. And he realized he was taken on a ship with his grandmother, and they were both being sexually abused. And then when the grandmother screamed, in the name of Jesus, let us go, they were thrown on the ground. And at that point, she had a heart attack and died. And he passed out. He was little. And the last thing he remembered, that he was working with angels after that. So the programming is much deeper in every level. And why I'm saying that is, and here's my take on whatever people say, it's their take. I believe the human race is the most spiritual race that exists in the physical realm. We have compassion, we have love, we have emotions, which most of the races do not. All the people that I work with, the people that have those experiences, and the ones that I saw and things like that, no, they're not compassionate, loving beings. They don't care if you eat, die, but they do need people here to run the planet for them. So that gets pretty heavy if we want to go into that. If there's any questions that do want to come in, feel free, because I want to get into this a little bit hardcore more.
Right. Well, I was just thinking while I was listening to you, the approach of there not being good, not being evil. This sounds like the teaching of the Eastern sages of Hinduism and some of the others over there, that there really is not a good or an evil, and they weren't just referring to aliens or humans or, creatures, but, as an overall general conception, that everything's just opposite polars of the same thing, in other words, or poles of the same thing. So I would take it this is the same kind of thing you're referring to with the extraterrestrials. Is that correct?
Oh, yes, because, okay, the main reason soul came down here and why it was allowed to come down here was to experience what it is. All right. And I use the word God. You could call it source. I don't use the oneness idea. But when it started creating universes and stuff, was it compassionate and loving? Did it care about, oh, I love that planet. Oh, I love that planet more. I mean, those words. All right. Let's go past that. All right. Then it created a life form. The first life form that was created. Like even on this planet, the roach is one of the oldest creatures on this planet. And guess what? It still looks the same. It's more, I guess its thinking increased, its ability increased, but it still looks like a roach. And it still acts like a roach. It goes underground, comes out, and it can fly. So it can do anything that it wants. But what I'm saying is it didn't change in the long period of time that it's been here. So the idea of evolution, why would it only be directed as towards one kind of a species? Like, oh, the humans came from this, that, and the other thing. Or we all came from... No, it's not like that. And history's been so bombarded with lies and twisted ideas. And here's the reasoning. Scientists are giving a certain amount of facts to work with. If you're going to build a car, I'm going to give you, it needs tires and you got to put this kind of an engine in it. They don't say it doesn't need that. It could levitate. It could use steam. It could use air. It could use light. They're programmed to use what the government allows them to use. And why I say that, Tesla had all this stuff in 1900. He created an earthquake machine. He created all kinds of things. I can go into that a little bit later, but he had 196 inventions that would have changed, evolutionized, created every kind of energy. And the problem is nobody would be making lots of money off of it. Because if you had free energy, most people can stay in their little community and wouldn't even have to leave. And wouldn't have to work. They could just do farming for what they wanted to eat. But now we have Monsanto's working with higher power people on this planet, creating synthetic, poisonous, toxic foods. I mean, that's a concept that we have to understand, which I feel if you're spiritually unfolding and you want to stay here, that's what you got to get involved with. Not just saying this fairy dust is going to be pouring over me in the next 3 months, 4 months, and I'm going to be a spiritual warrior. I said, the warrior started already, and being active in the life and trying to help understand what's happening to the planet. I'm part Native, and the Native teachings are limited to what they experienced and what they were capable of doing at the time, and the races that they were working with. They talk about the star beings, and I'm telling you, there's no good star being. Oh, they're going to save us. They're going to protect us. They're going to bring us up on ships. Really? When? See, my problem is all the theories, all the ideas are much really that. And I believe, when I say I'm a realist, I believe by what's happening to the planet in the moment. There's earthquakes every single day now for the past 6 months. And there's at least 5-4 a day over 5.1. There was a 5.9 yesterday. But every day they're growing and growing. That's happening to the planet. And I can tell you, the HAARP system can control that. And they are. Japan's in serious trouble. And no matter how ascended or how spiritual we become, if Japan goes under and becomes a nuclear waste, we're in trouble. The world is. I mean, the island's getting bombarded by that. So, okay, these alien races that are spiritual only can help us when we ask them to. And who's the we? Because like I said, the Christians aren't going to ask the alien race to come here help them. The Muslims aren't saying that. There's a certain race that is, like Ashtar Command and the Galactic Confederation. But there's such a small number. So when these aliens are going to help us is what number of what percentage of what people would have to ask them to help us. Now, taking that much further to spiritual laws, which people don't believe there really are, then the most important one of them all, which when you unfold a little and travel outside of the physical body, you will see it. And it's called the law of non-interference. You can't interfere with changing things. And only people with egos and limited consciousness do that. Spiritual beings that were on this planet back to Atlantis left. There were 9 races. 5 of them left. They realized they couldn't stay here. The vibration was becoming too hardcore, too coarse, too strong and violent. And they left. Here's an idea for all the New Age people that think ascension's the answer. What are we going to ascend to? I mean, I'll tell you what the definition of ascending is. And only very few people in the whole history of the human race did that. All right, and just dying doesn't make you ascend. All right, ascending means letting go of the physical body to go into the higher spiritual body. And there's many bodies that soul or we move into that we are. And the astral plane is not a spiritual body. The astral realm has many realms in there, and they're not very spiritual. So, and if you want to check things out, I mean, Shirley MacLaine's doing a radio show now too, but she talked about the silver cord 30, 40 years, I'm not even sure how many years ago it was, 79. But she talked about the silver cord. People say, well, I don't know. I said, when you leave your body, it's not a string, but you can see the essence of it pulling you back to your body that keeps you connected. And I tell people, look, I had a big discussion with the medicine woman that I studied with many times, and I couldn't go further because she says, you'll die if you ever break that, or if that gets cut. And I said, no, I'll stay in the astral plane forever if I don't break it. And when you learn to work with certain beings and angels and gods, you learn different things that you do not learn in any book written here. Because the people that say they talk to God, God itself does not come down into the lower worlds for no reason. And that's why all these little gods are playing it. I mean, if you go back to the first gods that were playing with this planet, well, what we think were the first gods playing with the planet. Because when you go back to the Syrians and the Anunnaki, you're talking about two races, and they claim all this stuff. Who proved that? Because I wrote a document, put it somewhere, and somebody found it. That proves that that's what I was doing and who I was. Now, Quetzalcoatl was a physical being. When he translated, left the physical body, he came back as the god that they accepted as a god. But what did he do for them? I mean, he said stop killing people, just kill animals. But to me, the whole concept of killing is a very low level energy. And to say people that ascend are still going to be eating meat, still going to be doing the things that they're doing. So the idea of ascension is letting go of the physical body. And now, from my experience from being with Jesus when he was alive, when I was in that lifetime, he taught that. He explained and how and what you had to do. The only problem with that, most of his followers, including most of the disciples, did not understand that. So here it becomes a new religion with no truth to what it was teaching. I mean, I'm sure I know people are going to hate me and say that I'm wrong, but that's their choice. But if you say you're a Christian, you have no right, and you shouldn't be going out killing people for any reason. I mean, if you follow the Ten Commandments, which is only a limited number of the commandments that were there, you would be a good person. You wouldn't abuse your children. You wouldn't be doing all these horrible things that's happening to the planet. So as we unfold to this super high spiritual ascension, the amount of people dying, 7 children die every minute from starvation, abuse, and hunger. Now, does that sound like a spiritual world of people unfolding to a spiritual level? Oh, it's just going to change tomorrow because somebody threw some magic dust on the planet? No, it's people that are waking up, but not waking up to the idea that we're becoming spiritual. The idea to be and act spiritual is such a difference. And I can't say that more than any other path, any other religion on this planet. I mean, saying prayers and saying, hallelujah, or whatever you say, chant, to do, without action is totally useless. And I hate to say that, but it is. Because mankind has been praying since the beginning of mankind, and we're only getting worse. And we're at a point where people are not getting involved, and the alien races are getting involved with doing what they need to do, and it's not about making us ascend. I'll go, and I'll stand before any person out there that talks about any alien race that they're going to do something. And to me, the only time which a native elder said, words are words until they add up to something. Until an alien being lands on this planet, goes to the White House and says, this is it, put down your guns, the world is stopping. That's like the day the earth stood still. That's a true expression of what they could do if they wanted to. And why aren't they? If they are spiritual beings. Oh, well, we have to ask them. That's funny. The reptilians don't ask anybody to abduct them, and they do. The Greys abduct anybody they want whenever they want. And does anybody say anything? No. And, well, they pacify that. And they say, well, we're going to be ascended. We're going to be spiritual. How do you get there if you don't get active? And you have to let go of the lies. You have to have a government that allows you to know the truth. So we're really in a bad place right now. To say that this magic wand is going to be waved in 2012, and that the Anunnaki are going to come back, and do what? What in the world can they do to change the world that they created? I mean, if they wanted to change it, they had to wait so long to do it. So the facts, I mean, there's facts and there's things happening, but the problem is they don't fit together. They don't fit the idea of becoming a spiritual being. I mean, I can go into actual people that I know that have their child abducted at 8.5 months pregnant. Does that sound like a compassionate being or a loving being? Oh, that was one of the bad ones. Well, the rulers of those bad people are responsible the same as we're responsible for the people we allow. And we put our bad people in prison. We do things. I mean, unless you want to go into Superman, like put him in a crystal prison or something like that. So yeah, there's a lot of things that are twisted. And as long as man thinks that it's just going to change, it's not going to just change. The president gets in by a few people that want a particular person in, not by the people that say, well, a good person's going to get in. Do you have any questions right now?
Well, one of the things I wanted to mention, Tommy, was I noticed that we got some listeners in, listening at Shoutcast or somewhere. I'm not sure where. I picked them up on the server, but they're not in the chat room. And I don't know if they came in before I said it earlier or not, so I'd like to take a moment to repeat that membership here at www.paranormalpalace.com is free, and it'll get you into the chat room, and you could join us, in the chat, and you can ask questions in chat and what have you. And if any of you people listening would like to call in and ask a question, it's 832-632-7904. And Tommy's website is www.howtoseegod.org. And you can also scroll down below his description and you'll see links to his books. And you can also find out more information at his website. And Tommy, while I was listening to you, I was thinking about the fact that my guest last night, Gordon Johnny Noto, was sitting on my show saying that there will be some ETs, the Zetas in particular,
Right.
that would come in and take the good people off the planet and leave the selfish people behind, which is in opposition to what you were saying. And the thought occurred to me that perhaps in a future show, not tonight, I could arrange to get to both of y'all on the show together if he's interested. I have to talk to him first and let y'all have a civilized debate. I mean, none of the yelling over each other. I mean, let's face it, when y'all do that, nobody can hear either one of you.
Exactly. No, I wouldn't fight with them over it. Definitely not. I
think a good civilized debate could be healthy.
Definitely, and that's what I'm trying to get a few people to set up debates, because you need to hear both sides of a story to even understand it. I mean, you hear one side, you don't know why or not it's good or bad or true or not. I know people that work with them, and the good people are going to be taken. And this is what I have to get into. We already decided there is no good and bad, right? Then, if that's true, which good people do they need to take? A race will only take people that they need that'll do what they want them to do. If you're a farming race and you have farms on your planet, are you going to bring looters and chemical toxic people there? No. You're going to bring people that want to farm? Yes, the native people like farming. But here's the sad thing. There was 50 million native people here 200 years ago. Now they're down to less than 1/3 million. So, whatever race says that, even the star race, what they call the star beings and stuff, why didn't they come down and take some more of them away before they were all killed? Why did they let them get tortured, abused, and all the other words? So, the idea of good and bad, and here's where somebody came down to me and said, don't use the word hell. All right, I'll use kindergarten. In kindergarten, nobody knows better. And that's where most of the people are at on this planet. And most of the races have a nice tool, a spaceship and a light beam. But it doesn't connect that to God and the true connection to being spiritual, compassionate. So, like I said, everybody has their agenda. Every race has an agenda. The Greys are dying. And that's why they're taking our embryos and breeding them and crossbreeding them and stuff, because they're dying out. The reptilians like to have sex with humans. They like to eat humans, too.
Well, that's okay, because humans like to have sex with humans, too.
Oh, no,
I'm sorry, Tommy. I just couldn't resist that one.
No, that's fine, because there's only two problems with the planet. Sex and power. All right?
And humans are power hungry, too, just as much as anybody else.
See, the word sex, I mean, to me, it's only important when it has to do with love. And all aliens, all races, all creatures have sex to produce more of their kind, period. Most animals have it certain times every year. They're not like saying, well, I gotta have it every day. I mean, like the human brains being programmed, they program themselves, but what I'm getting back to is, there's races out there, but each one wants different kinds of people. And that's why different races left the planet. And the spiritual people left completely because they said, we don't need to deal with this anymore. And a sad thing for me is that all the high lamas, and my partner is becoming a lama too, but they put the idea there, and that they accepted that they will keep coming back until the last sentient being leaves. And I said, man, if I was the last one that you were waiting for, you'd never leave. So the idea of saying that we're going to stay here and help everybody leave. Maybe there's 10 people that will never want to leave the lower realm. And to persecute yourself to stay there for those 10 people that don't want what you're going to give them, well, it's an individual choice. But for me, I've been there, I've done it. I learned what Jesus was teaching, and then I realized what it was all about from being around back in Atlantis, what they were doing then, and how it was destroyed. There's conflict everywhere. And to think that magic dust is going to make us become spiritual, and do what? When you become a higher spiritual being, from what I experience and what I know from myself and where I go when I leave this world, has nothing to do with the physical realm, nothing to do with the astral realm, nothing to do with the general people of any level of those realms. When you deal with the beings, which are not reptilians or aliens or even interdimensional beings, are spiritual beings of light. And they don't have the idea of like a human body. I mean, you can't tell, like, oh, they're not male, female. And once you separate that, you're already separating a real programmed idea within the consciousness. Because when soul leaves the body, the idea residue is within the consciousness of spirit. And it's up to soul to learn, slowly let go of that. But as long as it holds on to that, it will reincarnate. Because it loves that. It loves the compassion or the sex and the feelings and the emotions and the drama. When you go into the higher realms, which is past the mental plane or third world where the Jehovah, Brahm, Kal Brahm, the gods are, and you have to go past them, which they just don't let people go past in general. And when you go past them and you go into the realm of light and you become those light beings, the sound is incredible. It vibrates through you. You vibrate out. You're not dealing with, well, is that guy going to beat me up? Or you're not dealing with any of it. That's gone. All of it. As long as you think you can change all that, and that's why God allowed this planet to stay here in this world or dimension. Because this is the only place that soul will experience and understand that so that it can grow out of it. Not to grow in it. I mean, it's like saying, I'm water. I'm going to make this water better. How do you make water better? You don't. You only pollute it. So what I'm trying to say is the idea of good and bad. Yeah, we can believe good and bad. But in your heart, when you're working from a certain level, every action you know you're responsible for. Good or bad. You don't have to call it good or bad. But the word karma, which some people are afraid of or don't believe in, is what you create, you get back sooner or later.
So it wouldn't really matter if a person was good or bad, because ultimately, in the end, karma balances everything out no matter what the actions may be.
Well, put it this way. You can create karma forever, which means you'll never be able to pay it off either. On a daily basis, you can create karma, which creates more time for you to come reincarnate again.
Kind of like borrowing money.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. The more, in other words, like in a society, the banking system will give you as much money as you want. As long as you sign those papers and then you got some kind of a job, they'll keep giving you more. You'll be digging yourself underground and they'll still give you more money. I mean, I'm a victim of that myself right now. But the problem is, you got to pay it back. And if you don't, you just reincarnate and start all over again. But usually, most souls that come into this world come in with so much karma that they have to deal with from other lives. And problem with that, most people don't have a way to understand or even experience their past lives. And I do give people the technique, simple ways to work with, and I said, look, 2 things you have to learn in life. First of all, what happens when you leave your body, because that's the only way you'll truly know what soul is. And second of all, you really need to be aware of your past lives. What if you are reptilian? What if you're a gray? What if you're, blah, blah, blah. No, you started out as something. When you came into the lower realm, you were in some form. And that form took some physical body. And at that point, that's what you are. Sure, you reincarnate into other lives and other forms and stuff later on. But what I'm saying is there's always a connection to the root core of what you really came from. And that's even further away from God itself, which it actually came from. But the awareness is just being further and further separated. So getting to the root core of what race you really are. I mean, I could tell you when I was in Atlantis, I was of the 9 races, one of them, and 5 of them left. And they were different colors, and they're the ones that left. But most of the ones that were colored became spiritual gods or deities like Green Taurus, Krishna, and he's from the blue world. I mean, they have different realms and stuff. So yeah, I became aware of that too. But if you don't know any of that, to think that this world, this physical little kindergarten, is going to unfold into super college graduates and master degrees in whatever fields and stuff, it doesn't take anything to grow on this planet. We don't need anything. I mean, we have the food to survive, we have the air to breathe, we have the water to clean. But we're not happy with that. We need machines to put water on our head. We need machines to do everything for us. We need machines to get away from where we are. See, we can't be happy. The old idea we like whatever on the other side of the yard, not our yard. I mean, we have...
The grass is greener elsewhere.
Exactly. And in people's minds, it's true. Give a person $10 billion, $5 million, and see what they do with it. I mean, it's sad. I mean, the richest people on the planet hoard it. I mean, people can change the world with that kind of money, and they sit on it. I won't say a particular person's name, but I've been emailing this person for 10 years, and I never got a reply. And she's still one of the richest people on the planet.
But that sounds like Oprah Winfrey.
Oh, you said it for me. Oh, thank you. And I've been emailing her saying, look, give me 1 minute of your time. Let me see you for 5 minutes face to face. And I mean, I've been trying to send her my book and trying to get, forget it. It's not happening. I mean, I got in touch with Dr. Phil. He wanted me on his show, but it wasn't what I wanted to talk about. So yeah, I didn't go on it, but,
what did Dr. Phil want to talk about?
Personal problems. I mean, yeah, personal problems, but it's to go into spiritualism, but you couldn't go into that part of it on the show.
Right.
He wanted to deal with the problem itself and not what happens from it. Well, I said, well, the experience is to help us become spiritual and to become aware of what we're going through, not to to deal with the problem. That's the problem. So, yeah. So here's a person that wrote a book a long time ago. Barbara Messiniak wrote Bringers of the Dawn. In that book, she explains something very important. And she talks about the grid work around the planet right now and how it forms this shield and it absorbs energy of soul and energy. People don't want to hear that. She doesn't even talk about that no more. She's channeling. I got to see her channel for many hours, and I don't want to get into too detail, but the first book she wrote was a very important book for anybody to read, to at least get an idea of the other side of reality. Like, why do reptilians want us to be angry and evil and stuff? There's reasons. And like I said, it's not good or bad. To them, it's what they need, energy. So the concept of what race is going to come here, it's what race do you want to be with? The Galactic Federation want to get on Ashtar Command ship and go with him or it. I mean, it's...
So the reptilians would be something sort of like energy vampires in a way?
Oh, they definitely are, in a great way. Food-wise, energy-wise. Soul energy, negative energy. And now here's something that I can go into detail, which I will go against a lot of the people out there talking about orbs. My partner and me were filming orbs. We were the first people to go public about them. And we explained that there's different kinds. And then years later, people were saying, they filmed spiritual beings and blah, blah, blah. But here's something about orbs. You can say whatever you want, and you could make and take whatever you want from it. I mean, everybody could sit in front of the same person, or being, or spiritual person, go home with a different experience they feel is important and right. So when people talk about orbs and say, they're spiritual beings and they're this, that, I filmed orbs, and I did it personally in 10 years' time, orbs over any situation. But we did it publicly in front of about 300 people. I shot 25 pictures, and on 20 pictures, we had orbs on every picture. So, yes, whether we can film them because we wanted to or not, but to say that they're spiritual, I filmed them over every situation. Anger, pain, suffering, sexual energy, they're there. It's not like they're just coming because you're a compassionate being or they're going to teach you light. And I can go and I would debate anybody on a lecture or seminar or talk about that if they wanted to, because I filmed billions of orbs over 15 years now. And I mean, we filmed them of every kind of situation you could imagine. But that's just one level, one little thing. I mean, we filmed creatures, kind of strange creatures, and we some of them were invisible, but we just heard them. But many of them made sounds and things like that. Do people want to hear that? Oh no, well, blah, blah, they're the devil. And we could debate that or talk about that. I don't know if people want to hear about the devil, the demons. Are they aliens? Are they both the same? I mean, you can debate all that, but this is still kindergarten. And the people here have no clue to the spiritual realms of the higher realms of God. As long as they talk about, well, we're going to travel, we're going to what? When you become that, and here's my mission. When I leave this world, which is not too far in a distant future, I will be in a world dimension. Then I create multiple universes and create what I want to happen on there and in them. That's what I'm going to do. And that's called the spiritual traveler. Because you can stay in the light and the sound and just vibrate in that for a long period of time. Somewhere down the road, you're going to choose to create and recreate things. And you'll step out of it.
Sort of like having your own second life world.
Yeah, but it's yours. And then you are the God of those realms. But you aren't the God that created me and spirit and everything else. But that's how God itself grows. And if you think God grows by everybody abusing people and killing people and destroying things, I mean, God realized that this is where it doesn't want to be. And that's why he allows these lower gods to play here. And that's why the demon and the devil was created too. Because these souls are so violent. And we say we're so spiritual. I want to just go into this for a little bit. I was empathic. And I don't know why. I was always given gifts by spirit. But suddenly I just realized I could see everything or feel and know everything everybody around me was thinking. All the time. I had it for 3 years. It was the most scariest time of my life because I walked in places, just walking down the street, you walk past two people and you could hear what they were saying and thinking. I mean, and no matter what level the priest, minister, or whatever they were, what was really going on in their thinking. And it's not like, oh, they don't think. No, they do. And I challenged it a lot of times. I would always confront a person and they said, how do you know? What are you talking? And they would be so upset because if you say, well, you were just thinking about what? And they look at you. So, the concept of that was dramatic for me. And I was glad I begged Spirit to take it away. I said, I just don't want to know what these people think because it's not that love and ball of energy that everybody says it is. I mean, a minute.
They're thinking about who owed them $10 and who
everything under the sun.
And anything but, you know.
Exactly. And that's very scary. And like I said, I begged Spirit to take it away. And it did finally leave, which I was kind of glad because I said, I don't want to know all that stuff. I have a hard enough time just keeping myself focused, but when you hear this person saying that and that person saying that, and then you know it's real, and then the abuse and all the drama that's in that. But getting back to the point, when I let go of that, my spiritual quest started when I was 6, and I'm still on it, but it's not like I have to learn a lot. I know the things that I need to do, and there's a difference. Being a student and a teacher, the teacher learns, but the teacher's not a true teacher if they can't teach their students to go past them, which I always said about teachers, and I had many, and I realized in a very short time I no longer had to stay with them. Because when a teacher tells you can't do this, and you know you can, that's a limitation. And if you follow that path, like in religions, oh, blah, blah, this and that, no, you can't stay in a path that doesn't allow you to grow and beyond the realms of the spiritual ideas of what's right and wrong. We are locked in. And here's the biggest problem to this whole picture. We have governments around the planet that only allow us to do certain things. We all say we're free. We're free to live by those laws. When you try to change them, you go to jail, get shot, get killed, whatever. Until we, as a group consciousness, change the laws that the government cannot create. And the only way that's going to happen, in which I said the native people, I mean, I was at Wounded Knee. When you go out, you have to go out fighting. if you accept and say, well, the right president's going to come in, he'll be the right president when he gets elected. If Obama comes back in, you think he's going to be the right president to take us into a spiritual realm? The idea that, okay, we don't have to be participant. We have to be willing to give our lives for what we believe in. And my motto is, it's better to burn out than to fade away. It's better to live by your truth than someone else's. And that's what happens with religion. They accept these truths of the people that try to create the religions. And you can go back as far as you want in any history, any race. They're all down here in this physical realm because they didn't learn to let go of it. And I mean, in the one path I studied, they used 5 words: lust, greed, anger, vanity, and attachment. And those words keep soul here. And as long as you think you're better, you can change and create, and all those words here make people be or do or think. Freedom means free. Free soul means to do whatever it wants. And it can't happen here. Imagine 7 billion people floating around doing whatever they wanted. It would be interfering with everybody else's freedom. So in a world that we call free world is so in control, the drug scenes and natural herbs and medicine. Who has the right to stop that? I mean, native people, native tribes, even spiritual religions used it through history to turn around and say, oh, well, it's illegal. And that's because government, controlled by a certain kind of a race, cannot allow us to be free thinkers. And we say we're all free thinkers, free to think the way we have to think in the physical realm. All right? And love, which I wanted to start with, which was love and spiritual, back to those words. All right? That we all become loving beings, compassionate beings. Compassionate to what? Your own race. We're not And Gandhi said a statement, I wrote it down. If I find it, I'll say it. But he was saying basically the society is the way its society treats its animals. The way we slaughter every creature on this planet is not a loving, compassionate race of beings. If you eat a cow, a sheep, any animal or anything, how was it killed? Why was it killed? And you're just feeding into that. So to say you're a compassionate being and to allow things like that to happen, and then, and I hate to say what Buddha said, and he went into that. If you don't see it, and you don't know that and if you know that it wasn't violently killed, how do you know that? I mean, and to kill an animal, the native people used to pray, and when the animal came to them, they said, okay, spirit brought it to us, and it came here because it wanted to give its life to us. And then when they killed it, they ate its heart because the heart was still the bloodstream of its life force. And they would eat that while it was still beaten. But that's the way the native people dealt with it. But if you go into a slaughterhouse in any part of the United States, alone, it's horrible, gross, and disgusting at every level. So we have a society saying they're spiritual. They still all eat meat, most of them, many of them. And they're saying, oh, we're going to become spiritual and respect all life. Which life are they talking about? Their family? Most families can't even get along, stay together. So, yeah, how far is that really going to go? So the concept of spiritual is very limited to the human consciousness. All right, let's go into the word love. Everybody has their definition of love. An alien has their definition of love if they even use the word. All right, but what does it really mean? Concept of in a relationship, how much does a person love a person? And for me, which I learned over trial and tribulation, love is something that never dies. If you love something, you'll always love it. Period. All right? And it's not something that you can force on somebody, which you cannot. So to say that everybody's going to become loving beings, that means you're going to love everything. I don't see that physically happening at any level. I truly wish it was a possibility, but it isn't. Because then free will, saying everybody has to love everybody, is taking away the free will of all those souls that don't understand love or want to understand love or want to experience it. So, and then
love is a hard thing to master when people are always hurting you.
Well, I learned by I was abused when I was little. I was abused in many different levels, and I love everybody that came in my life. everybody that I had contact with, I still love them. And not that I'm going to remarry them, which I made a commitment that I'll never remarry somebody that I ended a relationship with. The same as I still have their thoughts and feelings and compassion in my heart, always. But that's going beyond the level of what people are willing to do, especially in a relationship. And I was never the one that forced the relationship to end or forced the things to happen. It was always the other party. So that love wasn't broken because they destroyed or hurt me. But on the other hand that's so limited because that is based on the physical body's emotions, which alien races use for energy. But that vibration that we create and the energy around us by the level of love that we're trying to create or feel or go through. But it's the body, the nervous system, the brain, the heart that's pumping blood through these organs and stuff that seal it. The smell and taste is still part of the love even. But it's limited to a body. Imagine the body just disappeared completely and there you are in this ball of light, or you don't have no sexual body parts, you don't have blood flowing through you, you don't have a heart beating, you don't have a brain telling you what to do. Now what? What is love at that point? Oh, I care about that person not eating. It's totally different. And that's why I say you have to experience that. You need, and I'll try to get into that before we end, but try to get into the part where you do experience being out of your body. I had 4 physical death experiences. I spent 25 years leaving my body. So yeah, I understand it. All right. Do most people, if they have one experience, they think they know everything. One experience doesn't cut anything, but you need the first experience to start opening the door to have more experiences within it. So when you experience that part of it, you can understand, okay, now what is love? Which reptilians can't do, which the Greys can't do, which the Nordics cannot do. All right. I'll get into the Nordics later, but that idea, what I'm trying to say, the only thing love means, which people don't really understand or are ready to understand, that it is the connection between you and God itself. And that's what love vibrates at. And that's the only way you'll ever understand it. But until you start experiencing and try to understand God itself, saying you're God doesn't cut it, because you'll never understand anything higher than your own ego. And as long as people walking around saying they're God or they are God and we are all God, I don't see it. God doesn't kill people. God creates things, and if they kill it, it's not God creating the killing. It's the things that here are doing it. And that's why this realm is such a horrible realm when you explore the higher realms. And it's so hard to come back into the astral plane from the mental plane or the 5th, 4th, 5th, 6th worlds. Because the pain, anger, hate, lust, all those things do not exist. So when we're going to ascend, are you going to ascend past all of that? Probably not. And that's what ascension means. And if I will get into the whole concept what Jesus was teaching at the very end. But as far as going beyond that, are people really ready to let go of other people, other families, life? Be attached to family. Well, if I don't have family, I'm nobody. And most people accept that. To go to the astral plane when you die, I want to be with those people. That's the most saddest thing in my mind for people to believe. To sit in a world with a group of people that just died or died 20, 50 years ago. And what are you going to sit there and do? And what are you going to talk about? All the farming you did, all the animals you killed, all the games you played. What are you going to talk about? I think even in 100 years, you're going to get tired.
Where does that leave you if you're a meat eater, since you're not actually killing the animal, but you're partaking of the animal that's been killed?
The astral plane you can still eat. You can eat on the astral plane. You don't have to. It's not like your body will die if you don't eat, but you can eat. You can float around. You can do a lot of things. It's fun for people that are at that level. It's still the mind controlling and thinking and everything else. So yeah, it's a very limited place. To me, this is the lowest soul goes. There are places in the astral plane where there's fighting going on, just like the wars that we have here. But you don't kill a soul when you fight in the astral plane. You can throw energy at it and things like that. And I mean, there's a saying, I don't know what path created it, that soul can be neither created nor destroyed. And that was created by a man. It wasn't created by God's thought. The idea that soul can be destroyed. You have to look at it real simple. in your body, picture your body, not that you are, but your body being God. And you bring in all these defective cells and viruses and everything into your body. You got your little armies in your body that go out and kill them. You got your other army that flushes it out of the body. So guess what? They're killing the things that it doesn't want inside your body. So God itself has all this stuff, but it's not within its own body. And that's why this realm is here. So that it can filter and keep purifying itself until it's ready to let go. And some souls can be destroyed. And I mean, I that's only experience, and that I can't prove to nobody. So I won't even go into that any further. But as far as people saying that we have the gift to do whatever we want and be whatever we want, at some level it's true, and at many levels it's not. Because as long as you're here, you have to live by the rules. You have to breathe, you have to drink, you have to eat, and you have to do certain things. So it's very limited. So back to the things that the human body needs to learn is first how to get out of the body, learn how to deal with the beings that it works with when it's out of the body, and how to function in those realms and start traveling within them and seeing what lies beyond the concept of a family and physical world reality. So in the time that I spent in my life, I'm going to be 60 in December, my journey started when I was 6. But I spent almost every waking day and right before I went to sleep every night, thinking, working with spirit, working with beings, working with all this stuff. And I'm not just putting this stuff out there to make money. I'm not here to make money. I'm not here for any other reason for those few souls that are ready to move out of this realm, period. Because many souls do not or will not because they don't want to let go of family, life, people, all that. Most people don't want that. I told my cousin a long time ago about reincarnation. Oh, you mean if I raped 100 women, I can come back and do it all over again? That was his instant idea of what reincarnation meant. So the idea to be able to do it over is like freedom for some people. Oh, I did it wrong, I'll do it better next time. No, you have to learn not to do it wrong the first time. And if you're not aware of all your lifetimes, you can't be aware of all the lessons you learned in all those lifetimes. And then you do have to go over them all again. And this magic dust that's coming down in 6 months, 7 months, is not going to take that all away. It's not going to change it. The vibration can change. The magnetic field will get stronger. I mean, we will have to get stronger. The people that stay here, their whole vibration is going to have to be a little more tolerable, more immune to things. And here's something for all the New Age people that think they have to eat organic foods. We didn't have to have organic foods 50 years ago. The same as we don't need them in our bodies. But we do need clean air and clean water and clean dirt, which we don't have. So to assume that you're going to get organic food somewhere and it's going to be healthy at any level is still a dream. Because
isn't clean dirt an oxymoron?
No. Let me explain that. You know, you're a little bit older than me or the same age or younger. I don't know, but you're...
I think I'm probably a little bit younger. I'm 52.
Okay, you're a few years younger. Well, when you were a little kid, if you got a cut on your leg, you could go out there, take mud, and put it on your leg, on the cut, and it'll heal it. There was a bacteria that lived in our dirt, and it's what made plants absorb the vitamins and everything out of the soil. It died many years ago. So 90% of all plants grown in dirt are about 60% less in the vitamins and minerals they used to have when we were little children. All right. To say, it sounds oxymoron as far as dirt, but no, dirt is the creation of all life. I mean, if you believe the Bible, we were created out of the dirt. So yeah, take that, the essence. I don't know how many ways I got to go, how much time we got to fill in this, but I did want to get into Adam and Eve just a little bit.
Okay, well, I was going to suggest that we go for about another roughly 15 minutes, and if you need more time, give you more time, because some of the people I have listening go to bed about 10 o'clock or so, and you'd lose them anyway. Okay. So, you want me to just go into the Adam and Eve thing? Yeah, go ahead. All right.
we want to assume that, okay, this God created Eve out of Adam. And then we have to say, what God was this? All right. If you read the wording in the Bible, and I have to I'm looking at it, but I can't read it, but if you read the beginning of the creation of man, and it talks about the beast of our kind and of their kind, I mean the cattle is their kind and the beast of our kind, and our, I mean plural of the gods that were playing at that time frame. Imagine a being laying on the ground, ripping his chest open, pulling bones out of him to create another person is quite bizarre. And if God would have to do that, why would it have to do that to create Adam in the first place? But let's skip that part of it. Now, here's two people, and they're told not, and actually this reptilian creature comes over to it and tells it to eat of the fruit. If you read the Bible, if you read those definitions and the way it's worded, he's walking around. And okay, so these people are dealing with a being that's walking around, that's a reptilian being. After they eat the fruit, God comes back, or the God that was there comes back. He already lied. He lies to Adam because he says, if you eat of the fruit, you will die. Obviously, he didn't die. So that was a lie that God gave the first person on the planet. So now here we have a lying God. The great God that created the earth lied to the first person on the planet, if you want to believe the story or how it was created. Then, all right, what's he do? He tells the devil, which is a snake, that's walking around, that it's going to crawl on its belly for the rest of its life. So it makes it into a snake that crawls on the ground. And that's why all the symbols are based on snakes. Okay, but, okay, here's something that is a walking creature that now is crawling on its belly the rest of its life. So it just changed that automatically. So you have to look at the simple creation of man, how it was written by whoever wrote this, Moses, whoever actually really supposedly wrote it all. I mean, he wrote most of the beginning of the Old Testament.
I've read that there's some doubt about that. That they going common theory now is that there was really 4 writers.
Well, there had to be more than Moses, obviously. I mean, how much could Moses know? I mean, even if he lived 10,000 years, how much would he? I mean, 10,000. Yeah, how much would he really know? But the story is okay. That's a simple story. If you want to read it, read the words, read their kind and the beast of our kind. So they consider themselves beast. But now, let's go back to the Hinduism and the first religions on the planet and the beings that were their gods. Most of them were creatures in the image of the animals, half and half the human and half the animals that were around. And to assume that God would take on that kind of a form, even Quetzalcoatl, the serpent, and now they're trying to prove, and they actually are proving that dinosaurs had feathers. A lot of them did, were more kind of related to bird family, is kind of like throwing history completely over the wall.
Kind of makes you think about winged dragons too, doesn't it?
Well, they were. I mean, here's again, and I have to keep going back to this part. Experiencing how to get out of your body and experience the inner worlds is the first thing. The other thing is to learn a technique that can help you understand your past lives. Go back to the time when you were alive then, because you were. You need to experience what they looked like and what was really going on. We didn't have millions of words in those days. I mean, it wasn't like you had to have a conversation because you didn't. I mean, the concept of symbols mean a lot of different things when you don't have the same things that we have now. Sure, a flaming chariot. What in the world could a flaming chariot mean to somebody 10,000 years ago to what it means to somebody now? But, I mean, the wording and definitions and symbols, yeah, you can change them to fit whatever you want them to. And you can make any statement fit into what you want it to fit into. And why go back into experiencing your true self, what you were in that lifetime, and further back in other lifetimes. And something I will say, because I worked with hundreds of channelers, including some of the top ones in the United States, that you need to take very lightly what every one of them channels says to you, because if I'm doing hypnosis or I'm channeling, they channel the beings that are around them. And all spirits in that realm want to talk, want to be active. And one might be talking to you, one might be talking to the person that's doing the channeling. And unless they're an incredible channeler, which most of them, I will say, aren't totally aware of everything that's going on, do not know the difference. So when they say, oh, you were a king in this lifetime or you were that in that lifetime, be very leery to accept that until you can experience it for yourself. So, I mean, there's books, or people or simple techniques to work with that'll help you get there. And also I can say the sooner the better. You don't have another 10 lifetimes to get to that point if you want to get out of this realm or come back into the whole cycle all over. We're going to the golden age, but there's not going to be that many people that are going to stay here during it. I don't want to get into prophecy yet, but as far as getting into Adam and Eve, we have two people that started creating the whole world, and they all started having sex with each other and all along the way. And where are the morals and situations? How did they get created? And then we go into Moses, and then whose God was Moses' God? Moses had an Egyptian God until he became a Christian God. And at that point, his God, Moses' God, decided to start killing all the Egyptians. So here's two gods, two different races, already destroying and trying to change the planet to what they want. Does that sound like a God that you would really want to know? No. It isn't, because they are not the God that you do want to know. So when you hear the word, well, they followed this God, the Syrians followed this God, and the Anunnaki were following this God, and then the Mayans came later and they were following this God. They're not gods. They're just races. Races that came here to play with the human race. And as long as you give a being a power, they'll use it. And the problem is, most races, because we gave them that power, tell us they're their God or they're this or that, whatever we want to hear. And why was Quetzalcoatl a god? He was living among them when they were just slaughtering people every day, sacrificing people and stuff. So you just don't become God. There is one God. You don't become it. Hold on. Sorry about that.
Okay.
I'm in the middle of a show. Sorry about that. So yeah, these gods that everybody want to follow, what are they teaching? And they're going to teach love and compassion, and then what's that going to bring the world to? So we went into that. So concept is a simple technique, and I'll give you one that's the first starting point to really become aware of who and what you are. And a technique works if you give it energy and if you want to believe in it. If you say it's not going to work, it will not work. If you know there is a God, or believe there is a God, or believe there's a spiritual being or angel around you, you have to accept that and say, well, look, I will meet with that. And then you can. But when you start working with a spiritual exercise, as like any other physical exercise, it takes time and it takes commitment. And here's a commitment I'll tell everybody out there right now, if anybody's listening, that you need to do an exercise 30 days every single day for it to change the program that's already locked in your brain. There's great speakers that talk about the 21 days to freedom, 21 days, blah. Yeah, I say 21 days, it could break. But if it doesn't, you'll be pulled right back into where you were. If you spend 30 days doing an exercise and commit to it, it will free the program. Because as long as that program's not being put back in there every night or every morning, it will slowly disappear. And at the end of 21 days to 30, it will be gone. The program meaning that you can't do this, or that's not real, or this isn't real, or all those kind of ideas. So you have to get to the point when you let go of that. So when you're doing your exercise, wherever you want to do it, you have to know in your heart that there is something out there greater than yourself, that it does care about you if you care about it. If you don't care about it, why should it care about you? Meaning, if you think you're God, why would God want to work with you? You're God, you don't need me. So when people assume that or say that, they're taking away that ultimate connection that they have to the true source that they came from. And I'm sorry to say it. I stand by what I believe in. I live by what I believe in, and I'll die by what my truth is. And people have to be at that place to really be able to be given that. If you say, well, I'm going to study this and I see this and that guy's showing me better things, better miracles, you're going to lose it. Sai Baba did miracles for people to try to pull him in, and he did. He had one of the most highest populated followers groups of people. And he didn't even die when he said he would. He prophesied all this stuff and he messed up. So even the greatest, quote, spiritual sage couldn't keep up to what he was predicting and saying. I'm just saying I will die soon. I won't say a year or two or whatever, but I'm not afraid and I'm willing and ready. And I really want to go back into the higher realms. Because when you get into this exercise and you're doing it for 30 days and something happens, it opens the door. And once you open the door, you can go through it. You can't go through a closed door. And as long as the door is closed around you, you're not going to be able to experience the higher realms. And the astral plane is not there. I'll bring this in real fast. I studied with a Tibetan teacher. And when I was with him, he traveled with me up until a certain level. And I had this shield around me. And he says, oh, you need to break the shield. And he gave me these Tibetan words and all these things to try to break it. Nothing broke it. I'm lucky because it didn't. But when I traveled, I was suddenly in higher realms, which he couldn't go into. So whatever you think, it's really inside yourself and what you allow in. So when you have your experience, it is yours. And once you do have it, nobody can take that away from you. And until you have that, you're not to that point where you can experience it. So when you're doing your exercises for 30 days, try to do it at the same time, same place. You can have sound on, music if you want, water or quietness, whatever makes you feel comfortable and more at peace. And use that exercise. And there's so many books out there, but close your eyes, see a golden light, blue light, walk through it. Know that your angels and your guides are going to be there. But you got to do it 30 days. And I promise you, if you do it 30 days without breaking one day, if you break one day, you have to start all over. But if you commit to it, Spirit knows you're committing to it, and it'll allow something to happen. It's that simple, because the program that's in your mind that's saying you can't have it, which was put there by a reptilian race or whatever race you want, is stopping that. So it's just a simple thing that you can do. It's 15, 20 minutes, half hour, not more. Every night, every day, every morning, whenever. But you will have an experience, and it will open a door that you might not have ever walked through yet. Even the people that say they walked through the door and they met with all these good beings and everything else, you're still living on this planet. You still want to live on this planet. You don't understand the higher realms. I guess you said you want to kind of end it, wrap it up.
Yeah, I was saying something about that, and I want to also apologize for that barking a minute ago. It seems like tonight you and me each had a little bit of bad timing going on. You had a call come in at the wrong time, and I had a dog fight over food at the wrong time.
Really?
So, yeah, I do apologize for that, but we did get the dogs separated. That's why it didn't last long.
No problem. I have a lot of things that I want to bring in, but, if I try to focus on something, it's like really hard to get past it when you're trying to bring the awareness to a situation or a specific thing that's so important. And the words we use are so important, but we use them like they're so opposite of what they mean.
Right.
The word ascension. And I strongly say, when you hear people say, I'm going to teach you ascension, Jesus didn't teach people to ascend because they weren't ready to. He taught them how to be ready, but he taught them how to meet with him. And through that, they were able to meet with Jesus again. So the ascension part was something that had to be taught, but very few people understood it, were ready or willing to make the commitment. And even Jesus' closest followers, including Peter, was not ready or able to do it. If he didn't have a lot of help from Mary Magdalene, he would have never saw Jesus again. So the concept of coming back in a physical body, I mean, you're going to hear stories, and everybody wants to change stories. But I was there, and I'm not going to say that just because I was there, man, it was real. It's true to me, and I know what happened. But you can experience that if you were in that lifetime, or even if you want to go further back, you had many lifetimes. Experience any one of them, you'll be 1,000 times more aware than what you are right now.
Okay.
All right?
Yeah, and I know that Edgar Casey I think it was, talked about the same thing you're talking about too, didn't he?
He talked about certain things. I mean, he was going into a sleep and going channeling and stuff like that. Again, here's my thing, real fast. Channeling, I don't see major things coming out of any of it that can help change the world. People say this, people say that, but where is something coming from a great angel that would change the world? In any story, an angel brought death and brought change and mass destruction. It wasn't like an angel came and everybody started flying around with wings. That never happened. I mean, angels always gave warnings, not love and light and spiritual blessings and gave everybody a gold brick to walk away with. So yeah, the concept of, I mean, Edgar Cayce had a lot of things. He prophesied a lot of things. But we will see. This whole year is everybody's prophecy. And if nothing happens at the end of the year, what goes down? Oh, well, we'll ascend next year. So, keep that in mind as the Galactic Confederation ships comes down. I mean, they're there. I didn't even get into the whole UFO thing. They're real. They're more real than anybody wants to believe or accept.
Well, I was going to say, since there's a lot you still didn't get into, next time, why don't we invite you back on a Wednesday again? Only move the show time back to 7, which would give it a little more time for the people who go to bed earlier.
Oh, that sounds great.
So, like, we'll get you in here on a Wednesday at 7 p.m. my time, which would be about 2 o'clock your time.
Sounds fine with me. Sounds really good.
Okay. And for tonight, I guess we should go ahead and wrap up. I want the listeners that do go to bed early to have a chance to, wind down and get their nightly water, whatever they like to do. I don't want them to rush out of the show and rush off to bed, in other words. And we'll go ahead and call this one a wrap. But, Tommy, it's really been great having you. You're a very interesting guest. And I PM'd Gordon while you were talking, and I never heard back from him yet, so I'm assuming he's away from his keyboard. And I'll be in touch with you to let you know how that goes.
Great. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure being on your show again.
Thank
Anytime.
you.
Thank you. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, everybody. Just a quick update. My show this Saturday is going to be Michelle Maney. That's this Saturday at 1 p.m. And she's going to be talking about ancient star temples, which I think should be interesting. Now, she's going to be one of the speakers at the Paranormal Summit, the 2012 Paranormal Summit in Sacramento, that I've been erroneously calling the Sacramento UFO Conference. It's the 2012 UFO Paranormal Summit is what it's actually called. It's being hosted by Anthony Sanchez, and he's got a lot of good speakers like Carrie, Bill Ryan and Carrie Cassidy, I think is her name. I got mixed up for a minute. Jay Wiedner, Norio Hawakawa, which is on the other night, Scott Roberts, Anthony Sanchez, David Waverly, Lyle Blackburn, Micah Hanks, so just to name a few are going to be on this here lineup. And Michelle's going to be telling us about her part this Saturday. And she also wants to talk about the ancient star temples, or acoustic star temples. And that's a little bit of a new subject for me, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be what she's going to cover at the summit. Don't forget about World UFO Day. The link's in the upper right-hand corner. Don't forget to click on my friends link and check out the social networks and the forums listed there. The banners, there's Alien UFO Community, Supernatural UFO, and United Paranormal International. And don't forget about my radio favorites on the left-hand side as well. And stop by and see Gary Brown at UKPN Radio, JimHarold.com, The Gralien Report with Micah Hanks, and Ohio Exopolitics and Mark Snyder. I think you'll enjoy all of those. They're great places to learn. I want to thank you guys for joining in and taking part in the show. Please invite your friends. Let them know that if they sign up for free, they can get into chat and sign up for the newsletter. And in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and go. And you guys have a good what's left of the week, and I hope to see you this weekend. Bye-bye.